Good morning. Uh-oh. Oh, good morning, everyone. I don't think my podcasting sister, she needs to unmute, sweetie. Good morning to Candid Conversations with K and K. Um, there we
Here I
go.
am.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. Again, welcome to Candid Conversations with K and K. I'm your co-host, K. Renee Mason, with my podcasting partner over there, Miss Kimberly Coleman of
Good
Sister Girl
morning. Good
Speaks.
morning.
Good
Good morning. How are you?
morning. Trying to keep warm. I don't know what the weather is in Oklahoma, but it's cold here in Chi-Town. But this is the seasons has changed, and even though it's still
Yeah, yeah,
fall technically, winter is coming
yeah,
here.
yeah. It's about in the 40s and 50s here. It'll be kind of
Okay.
in the 60s, but So the great news is we took a break for a minute. I was a little sick last week, and the week before that, I was in my hometown of Chicago. And after about podcasting for about a year, finally met Kay Renee in person
How about
and
that?
Art Sims, Chat Daddy, and who made a wonderful brunch for us.
Sure did. Oh my
It
goodness, it
was
was
it was really
delicious.
great.
It was. It was. And let's still wish him. He had his birthday celebration earlier in the week. He's still celebrating. So happy birthday, Art. I know you celebrate the whole
Happy
month. So
birthday, Art.
enjoy this weekend.
Yes. And welcome to my mom who's watching. I see that
Hi,
you're watching, Mom.
Mom.
Hi.
Hi, Mrs. Coleman.
So we have a lot to cover. We're going to have a guest hopefully on later. We have a lot to talk about.
We do.
Yesterday, for 85 minutes, Vice President Kamala Harris was the president. She was sworn in, and the reason being is because President Biden had a colonoscopy, and for those of you, and had a routine medical checkup. So for those of you all who've had a colonoscopy, know you're mildly sedated, and he was sedated, and so we recommend everyone after the age of 50 get a colonoscopy. Some people, because of the history in your family, have to do it a little earlier. Of course, we lost our beloved Chadwick Boseman to colon cancer.
Yes.
But she was president for 85 minutes. And although it wasn't a long time, it was still
Historic.
something, it was still historical,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely. And when I saw that, I was like, all right, Madam Vice President. And
Right. It's the first
that's
time a
the,
woman has been president, a person of color, as they people say.
yes, that's a good thing. So, I'm glad that President Biden is doing well. His physical came
Yes.
out very well for, remember now, and I think, wait a minute, is today his birthday?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
today President Biden's birthday? Well,
Yes.
happy
79
birthday,
years old. I
Joe.
was going to mention that.
He's 79 today. Happy
Yes.
birthday,
Yes.
President
Yes. And looks
Biden.
very well.
He
And looks
does.
very well. And
And
yeah.
sending lots of love to our first lady, Dr. Jill. But you need to send Kim and I to the White House because we will celebrate you. So happy birthday, President Biden. Many, many, many more.
But I have to say, I don't know if they're doing it this year. I know they didn't do it last year.
Right.
But if you are in the DC area and you're able to do the Christmas tour, of the Christmas trees. It is really, I don't know if they're going to do it this year. It is
Right.
really something to go to. It is amazing. When the I went twice when the Obamas were in office, and they always had a big stuffed thing of Bo, and
Okay.
that we always took pictures of that. So, and the trees, you go in the blue room, in the this room, and they have all the trees. It is something to see. So, if you're in the DC area between Thanksgiving and Christmas, call your congressperson and they can get you tickets if they're doing it this year. That's the
Right.
thing.
Right.
We also
And
want to
let's
give a
talk
shout
about.
out to. Go ahead.
No, no, let's talk about. I think I know what you're going to talk about. So give the shout out.
The NASA astronaut Jessica Watkins, she will make a historic trip, the first Black woman on the space station crew. Not sure when that trip is going to take place, but that is historic as well. So Black people are still doing some amazing things,
Yes,
still be first, even in 2021. So we salute that sister. Did you have something
absolutely.
else you wanted to bring up, Kay?
Well, it's funny you mentioned about Doctor. I'm sure because she's a Doctor Watkins. You know the one who I always adore, and that's Mae Jemison. So I know Doctor Jemison is also very proud of astronaut Jessica Watkins. So
Right, right, right.
very
Um,
small
we
club.
also Right. We also want to mention the two men that were exonerated from the killing of Malcolm X this week. After Malcolm X has been gone 55 years, and the two men were exonerated this week. If you have not checked, one of the reasons why they were exonerated was because of a documentary that's on Netflix, Who Killed Malcolm X. It is a very in-depth documentary. It was nominated for an Emmy, and this really got the ball rolling for those two men to be cleared of that. And so check that documentary out when you can. Also, that hit the theaters this week was King Richard, which
Yes.
is about the father and the Williams sisters who play tennis, Serena and Venus, and how their father developed a plan to make them the great tennis players that they are. So it came out yesterday. It's on HBO Max. I'm going to go see it with my mother when she comes to town next week.
Oh,
But I've
good.
heard nothing but rave reviews. And Will Smith's memoir came out, and Oprah
Yes.
said it was the best memoir she's ever read. So
Now
that's
that's
something.
saying something. Actually had the opportunity to see Will in Red Table Talk because he took it over and had a
Mm-hmm.
conversation with Venus and Serena along with their mother and their two sisters. Sadly,
Mm-hmm.
the older sister Yatunde, as we all remember, was shot and killed in her
Mm-hmm.
area of Compton. They spoke on that, but the in the even in the interview, Kim, he was very humble. He wanted to make sure that he did their father justice,
Proud.
and
He did. He
he
did.
did them proud. And I can tell. I learned a little bit more about Venus and Serena. One thing I did not know how tall they are. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Serena is almost 6 feet, and Venus is close to 6 feet. But they're you know to go through their journey to be, because to me they're both goats, the greatest of all time in their sport. Um, and to have a father who is so, and not just a father. Let's yes, he trained them very well. Let's not forget the mother, because the mother had to take on all that
Mm-hmm.
responsibility to raise those kids while the father was coaching Venus and Serena. So it was truly a
Yeah.
family effort.
Yeah. And
And
that's what they say. That's what they say in the interview, that it was a family effort. It was
mm-hmm,
truly a family effort, and they didn't get there by themselves. So
right,
we want you to see that.
King
We have
Richard,
there's been a lot of news this week,
of
some of it
course,
good, some of it bad.
yeah,
Of course, we are watching the people who murdered, and I say murdered, Ahmaud Arbery. Their case is going on in Georgia, and we are watching that. I think the
closely,
defense rested this week,
right,
and so it'll be interesting to see how that case progresses. I don't think that we'll see it go to jury before the holiday, and we'll talk more about, of course, Kyle Rittenhauser, who murdered two people and injured another, was found innocent on all charges in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We can deal with that a little bit later. And here in Oklahoma City, a young man by the name of Julius Jones, who proclaims his innocent for a murder two murders over 20 years ago, was spared his life. He was supposed to be executed on Thursday at 4 o'clock, and the governor at about 12 o'clock, too late. in my opinion, decided to spare his life. And so while we celebrate that, um, the work still continues to get Julius Jones to his family. And also here in Oklahoma City to get rid of this governor. To put that family through that uh, was an abomination to me. So I'm just going to leave that right there. Anything else, Kay?
Well, while we were gone, we had a few transitions. One who just happened this Thursday. If you remember the song from Schoolhouse Rock, I'm Just a Bill. See, for y'all youngins who are watching this, we didn't have all these cable channels back in the day. Saturday mornings, y'all, we listened to Schoolhouse Rock. Okay? That's how we learned some civics lessons. We learned astronomy. We learned science. We learned math. We learned reading. But Dave Freishberg, who is a Grammy Award winning composer, he wrote the song "I'm Just a Bill." So for those who want to know, those youngins who need to know what the videos are, YouTube the video Schoolhouse Rock, "I'm a Bill." But he sadly made his transition this week at 88. And another soap opera giant. Now I don't know. You probably were the watching the All
Was it
My
Young and the
Children,
Restless? Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But Young and the Restless actor Jerry Douglas, who played patriarch John Abbott, sadly passed away earlier this week at the age of 88. And I loved him as well. So, you know, as we're approaching the holiday season, we want to just remind each of you, for those who have lost loved ones, not only to COVID but to natural causes, and for those individuals whose loved ones are no longer here, just know that God is always with you, and just take the time to just honor yourself during this holiday season. I can personally attest that holidays are not very easy for me. No, I like to, if possible, like for the holidays to like speed up from really November 1st through January, because I shared this early in the month. My beloved dad, it's been the 8th year of his transition. He made his transition on November 8th, 2013, and this upcoming Christmas Day, my beloved mother passed away 11 years ago. So we just want to let you know that we are here for you. Know that if you're experiencing sadness, definitely reach out to people, because that's very important. Even though we're still in a pandemic, there's still people getting their booster shots. Hopefully you'll be getting yours if that's your choice. But also reach out to people who care about you. That's very important. So that's
Yes,
my
very much so.
soapbox, and that's my statement. I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Well, this is National Caregivers Month. And if you look on our page, K and K, we talk about some of the statistics and issues dealing being a caregiver. And we're going to bring someone up. Kay, I'm going to leave it up to you to give our esteemed guest, as I bring her up, the introduction.
Well, this young lady, I just truly adore. She is not only just a historian, an architectural historian. She is an independent documentary producer, a journalist. But more importantly, the reason why we brought her here, she was an esteemed caregiver to her family, and she's going to share her story with us. So please welcome to our show Susan Carla Ellis. And let's just say happy belated birthday, because she's celebrating her birthday on Thursday. So happy birthday, sweetie, and
Happy
welcome.
birthday.
Thank you.
Hello,
Thank you.
Susan.
Hi, how are you?
Doing
How you
good. How are you?
doing?
I'm great. Thank you. I'm blessed and highly favored. I'd like to thank you,
Yes,
ladies.
Yes, you are.
Thank you, ladies, for having me on and inviting me today. It's
of
a beautiful
course.
day.
Yes, it is. So we're gonna. I mean, as Kim mentioned, November marks Family Caregivers Month, and talk about stories, Susan, how you became not only just a fierce caregiver, but you extended such love to your parents. You know, I remember posting about Caregivers Month, and you mentioned the story about your brother. So, talk to us about that, and tell the audience about who Susan is.
Okay. So, Susan is a graduate from Howard University School of Architecture, and I had been practicing architecture for over 10 years. Um, well, actually, it started with my brother. Unbeknownst to me, my brother was living a gay life, and I did not know. And he become HIV positive, and then with full blown AIDS. He lived 11 months after his diagnosis of full blown AIDS, and I had to care for him in 90 and 91 at a time when touching somebody with AIDS was horrible. Like you might get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having to go to the hospital. I would try to go every day. And I'd always try to go with a smile. I didn't want to go in there like boo hoo hoo. I wanted to go in there and cheer him up. And I had to cheer myself up. And it was interesting because even though the hospital no longer exists, um, even though he was in the hospital, even at that time, I would have to go in the hospital room and clean it up. Like if they gave him a Band-Aid, they just threw the garbage on the floor. If they wiped his whatever, they threw that on the floor. So I would have to go in and clean up after whatever care he had. And I remember the last time I saw him alive, we laughed. We were laughing. I walked out the room laughing because my brother was the the glass half full, not empty but full, even to the last. And so, of course, losing a child is one of the most horrible things that can happen to a parent. And my mom, she had already shown um, visible signs of dementia, but we weren't sure. My brother had warned me, people that are, I want to say Christian, that have accepted God in their life have a certain truthfulness. And he didn't lie to me. He told me many things, even 30 years later, are still true. So fast forward, my mom, her health declined rapidly because her son had passed, and she really couldn't handle that. And when the Alzheimer's set in, we got a diagnosis from the same hospital that treated my brother. And the doctors at that time had no idea how to treat Alzheimer's. There were no support groups. There was, I mean, even the doctors, I'm sorry, well, we don't know what to do. And they tried to experiment with drugs. And because at that time, my father was her, main caregiver at the time, I was working full time as an architect, and his health started to fail. So 8 years in, both of them, I had to quit my job and take care of both of them. What I didn't realize towards the end was that my father was also getting dementia.
Wow.
And that took it on a whole nother level because all the caretakers that we had, he fired. So it was like, oh my God, what's going on here? We did find some help in caregiving. There were some people that were very, very good, young ladies that came in and helped. What we did find was a church in Maple Park Methodist Church. And they had a daycare for people with dementia. Because see, Alzheimer's is just one form of dementia. There's several forms of dementia, not just Alzheimer's.
Very true.
And so that church was a lifesaver. My mom would go there 2 or 3 times a week, and that would give my dad and myself time to do what we needed to do. And they also had caregiving support group, which you couldn't even find with the Alzheimer's Association on the South Side at that time. So we did reach out to the Alzheimer's Association, but like I said, they did not cater to Southside. So
Interesting.
Maple Park Methodist Church was very instrumental in keeping us, at a certain level of comfortability. My mom was able to get out. She was able to go and be with other people, and communicate. And when I say communicate, that's another thing. She had lost the ability to make structured sentences. But love knows no bounds.
Yeah.
I was able to
Yeah.
understand. My dad was able to understand her. We were all able to
Right.
communicate.
Wow.
But outside of that, no. But my mom was a very active woman, lady, and she used to be a camp counselor, downstate East St. Louis, where she was from. So we would say, we're going to camp. And she would love that. Oh, camp. Yes, camp. So yeah, so she understood that part. It was like if all I said was camp, she's like, okay, let's go. So that
Right.
was a
Can I ask
that
you?
was a lot.
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry, Susan. Can I ask you a question? What years were this that your mom was diagnosed?
So when I returned from Washington, D.C., was about 89, 90. My brother had mentioned he felt she was getting dementia. He wasn't sure. Then he became sick. So when he passed in 91, she just went. And so from
Wow.
91
Wow.
until their deaths, which were 40 days apart,
Wow.
in 1999, my father passed in January, and then
Right.
40 days later, my mom passed. And I
Wow.
in front of my face. It was a very moving experience.
Yeah.
She couldn't speak. I mean, she couldn't speak. She could not. She was not audible. We slept in the same room, her bedroom. She had a separate bed because she couldn't move around on her own. And the dog kept making noises, and animals know too.
Yes, they
Yeah.
And the
do.
dog was
Yeah.
like, "Wake up!" And my mom was making noises, and I went over and I looked down in her face, and she just looked at me and saying, "It's time."
Wow.
So when people
Wow.
ask me about anything, I say it's just about love. It's just about
Yeah.
love.
Yes.
Um. Let me ask this question: what kind of resources did you have at that time? Because as you said before, I think this is with your brother, there wasn't a lot of resources for you to lean on. Were there resources that you, besides the church, which was excellent, and they have that here in Oklahoma City, what kind of resources did you, other resources?
So, and I did make some notations here because at the time I was working full time as an architect. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess family, friends made suggestions to people they may have heard of that could give care to my mom. But my dad was being a man, he's a man. And I don't think he liked having other people in his house trying to tell him what to do. But it came to a point where I had to legally take power of attorney, because I could see that we were under attack with other forces. The support that I had were at the time a lot of friends. So that's important to have, strong, solid friendships that will understand, because not all my friends understood what I was going through. They did not understand I had to drop everything or I had to leave work. Even my bosses were like, "What's up? You leaving work every other day? Come on, really?"
Mm-hmm.
And when you try to explain what's going on, they have no idea because they're not walking in your shoes.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
now, 20 years later, there are support systems and people understand a little better. But at the time, there were no support systems, no support groups. Like I said, even the doctors, they didn't know what to do. So I had a good network of friends that would come in, and I say friends because all family members
Mm-hmm.
ain't trying to help. They look they looking for
Hello.
something else, you know.
That's right.
So and then they want to tell you what to do, but they're not trying to help you. So at any rate, I had a lot of good friends that would say, Susan, you go do what you need to do, and we'll stay with your mom. And I trusted them enough, and I knew them well enough to know that they were not going to do anything, and that I could leave my mom with them for a couple of hours. So that was the support system. There was no, the Alzheimer's, like I said, Alzheimer's Association is great, but they did not have any systems in place on the South Side.
Right, right. Um, and for those of you who are caring for someone, you can look at your local Alzheimer's Association groups. They have some great. I used to work at a place where we had a weekly roundtable for people to come to talk about what they were going through as caregivers. And I know that they have that all over the country, and they have a walk every year. I think it's in October. I think it's in
Yes.
October where they raise funds, and they are very close to finding a cure or for this disease, according to the people that I talk to. So we just pray, contribute to that organization, and hopefully, we'll find a cure for this. Karen, Kay, did you have something that you wanted to ask Susan?
Well, one of the reasons why we wanted Susan, on because, like Susan, I was a caregiver to not only my parents but my maternal uncle. And like you, Susan, I had a full time career. Once, um, unlike your mom and your dad that suffered dementia and subsequently Alzheimer's, my parents were in a critical accident. They were in a car accident of which my mom was ejected 200 feet from the car. This happened 17 years ago, and
Mm,
literally that's when my life stopped, but then it started because I had to be there not only for my mother, my father, and my uncle. And interestingly enough, my both of my parents and my maternal uncle had to go to assisted living facilities. And one thing that we really want to stress: if you're going to be a caregiver, get your house in order. If you need to get a
Mm-hmm.
power of attorney, it's very important
Mm-hmm.
because, like Susan indicated, there will be individuals, and I will say family, the ones who say they are blood, will try to manipulate out of the sake of love. And you
mhm.
really need to have a strong network of support to help you to talk through things. The one thing that helped me through the process and the journey was I wrote. I always updated everyone in my distribution list how my parents were doing. And then that's when people, some strangers, some who I haven't spoke to, say, Karen, what can we do for your mom? What can we do for your dad or your uncle? I said, I just need you to go visit them. Just spend time with them. But at the end of the day, you have to be that advocate for that loved one because no one else is going to be that advocate for them. And in the
Yes,
interim, as you're going through and being that caregiver, always remember to take care of you. Because the one thing that
that's
I know that has happened with caregivers, they give all this love, they give everything, they give their life, and then something happens to them while the person that they're giving care to
yeah,
is thriving, the person inside is dying. So the one thing I will, and I notice, with you, Susan, we love humor. you have to keep humor a part of
Yep.
your repertoire as you're giving care to that loved one. I mean,
That's
it's
true.
very
True.
important. You know, make sure you
That's
take care of yourself. Make sure you get those, like you have to take your loved one's doctors and dental appointments. You have to do the same thing as well. You know, to eat well, right? And you know, there are going to be moments where you may get depressed. I mean, let's keep
right.
it real here. There have been
Yeah.
moments where I just was like, why couldn't I have been there to save my parents from this vehicle accident? And I got depressed, but it was because of my faith that sustained me. And literally, when there are moments when I was ready to just give up, God said, I got
Mm-hmm.
someone for you to lift you up
Mm-hmm.
as you continually
Mm-hmm.
lifting your parents up. Because the one thing about caregivers that people don't understand, it's a labor of love,
It is.
unconditional love that
It
you have to
is. It really
extend
is.
to that loved one. And I can personally tell you, once both my parents and my maternal uncle transitioned, literally after the service, I dreamt about each one of them separately, and they personally told me thank you. So it's not a
Mm-hmm.
job that you're going to get, recognition for and be a celebrity. But at the end of the day, when you know you've done everything that you could for that loved one, God always blesses you. Always. Because let me tell you, ladies and
Absolutely.
gents, that's the
Absolutely.
job that a lot of people think it's all glamour. It's not. It's about labor
So
of love.
it's unconditional. Before I sign off, I do want to mention some tips.
Yes.
If you are dealing with taking care of loved ones, like you said, make sure you take care of yourself. One of the keys that I believe my mom, and this also led my dad to accept Christ before he passed, was that she was a woman of God. And anytime I prayed out loud, or anytime I would take her to Salem with me for Bible class, and we would, we turned and say, hey, God loves you. She looked at me, she said, you must think I'm stupid. I know God loves me clear as day. Um, I would also say, you don't need to explain everything to everybody. Make sure you have a good network of support. And if you don't, call those support people up. Alzheimer's Association. There are a lot of places you can go. Even your church, if you belong to a church. For Alzheimer's, if your person, your loved one keeps repeating things, let them repeat it. Don't argue with them. If they think
Right.
if the wall is red, the wall is red. Let them feel whatever they have to do. There's a lot of restlessness. We put bells on our doors, chimes. So if we heard the door open and they were trying to get out, like go outside, we know that they were going outside.
That's
Give them
good. That's
activity.
good.
Give them activities to do. Don't let them just sit around. Play the music that they like. If they grew up in the 50s, play the 50s music. Let them go back to, they're going to go back, they're recessing into their childhood. Let them go to their childhood. You don't have to agree with everything. Let them just be what they want to be. Monitor their medication. So now you have to become a doctor and a pharmacist. Make sure you monitor their medication. And like I said, if they're spiritual, read from the Bible or the Quran, and make memories. Make sure you videotape them. When they're
Wow.
diagnosed, the moment they're diagnosed, make sure you start talking to them. So whatever you need to ask them, you better ask them now. And review old pictures with them, because that will help them
Wow.
as well. And like I said, seek support groups. The Alzheimer's Association, AARP, is also a good resource as well.
And I have
Hang in
the
there to
Alzheimer's
the best you
Association,
can. Yeah,
right? I have the
and
Alzheimer's Association website right there.
okay, www.alz.org. And make sure
Yes.
that you take care of yourself. When you start entering caregiving, you need to explain to your support group who will be your support group and who won't. And don't think your family's going to be your support group. Okay? If they're not, don't get mad at them. Say bye. I see you later because I got stuff to do. I'm serious because
That's right.
it's about money. And I'm not even going to go there on that. But, you do the best you can. It's unconditional love. They wiped your snotty nose. They kissed your little bloody knees. I love my parents. I still love them. They sit here, and my brother in my head somewhere.
Yep,
So thank
that's
you for
Wow.
right.
letting me share.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Thank you
Those
too,
tips were
Susan.
amazing. Those tips were amazing, Susan. And we're just happy that you gave those. Some of them people don't even think about. You had something else?
Yes, when your loved one is diagnosed, do not tell the lawyer. Go to the lawyer and say, okay, I got to get this paperwork because, see, it's like the horse and the cart. If they've already been diagnosed, they said, well, they can't sign this paperwork.
Right.
Okay.
Wink, wink. And the other thing
Okay.
is, and I was talking to a gentleman the other day who recently lost his loved one, and I found that we have to stay on track. I did not go back into the architecture field for several reasons. But when you're on track and you've got a career or a family, you get off track. So when that caregiving ends, you need to still have a plan for yourself because
That's
you've
right.
Mm,
already been derailed. So you need to figure out when this is over, what am I going to do for myself? And usually you're
right.
burned out and you need to take a break. So take that break for yourself and then get back on your train and go that on that journey that you God gave you.
Right.
Amen.
That's awesome. That you've been an excellent guest. You've given out $1 million worth of tips. It is something that many of us have gone through or will go through, and you have to be what you're in mourning, but you still have to do the work during the mourning time because you're
Hmm.
mourning even when they're there. You're mourning the person that they were, but you still have to be on your P's and Q's, as they say. About I have my mother's friend, one of our best friends, is going through this now with her husband. I see you
Hmm.
put your Delta cup up. I see you
Oh, no, no,
representing.
no, no. Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. Wait a minute. Hold it before I get.
Okay, okay.
Mm-mm. I am not a Delta.
Oh, okay, okay,
My mother was a Delta.
okay,
My
okay.
But you
was,
you
I'm
but you still
legacy.
legacy, even though you still part of the Delta Sigma Theta family.
And I didn't
Yeah,
even
we know
know it
how
was
sensitive.
transition time.
Okay. But what I was saying is my mother's a friend is going through this right now, someone that I've known since I was in kindergarten. This is her second marriage. And I was talking to her because I was in Chicago a couple weeks ago, and she had to put him in a facility. And then his kids, there's some financial things going on. I don't want to put all their business on Front Street.
Yeah.
But even
Hmm.
she's mourning the loss because they've only been married, I think, 7 or 8 years. But she's
Hmm.
really had to putting some things in place for herself and for him, and protecting herself.
That's
And
Yes.
she
right.
talked to me about that. So that those tips you gave were excellent. Kay, did you have any parting words for Susan?
No, I mean, we're definitely kindred souls in that. The unfortunate thing is, if as long as you are living, if you have parents that are still living and thankful that they have the acuity and clarity of thought, it's a great thing. But you've got to be prepared for that time. And the one thing for me, when I was taking care of my dad before he transitioned 8 years ago, I was thinking that the day would come. I didn't think it came as quickly as it did. And the one thing that I will, if I, in hindsight, I needed to take better care of me. It wasn't until when things, happened that I needed a
Hmm.
break. And again, people don't understand what a caregiver goes through until it happens to them. And then, like, oh, this is what happened. This is what Karen went through. So I think,
Hmm.
when you have that support, if you're the support person of the caregiver, cut that person some slack every now and then, because to walk in their shoes, it's a lot. It's not easy. Especially if you have a family of your own, if you have small children that you're dealing with, and then dealing with the loved one that you're providing care for. That's a lot of mental anguish that you deal with. But I think the common theme that all of us have is that you put your faith first. You put your
Yeah,
whatever your spiritual, whoever the higher power that you believe in, you stick and hold on to that.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, when things happen, and they will, that faith will see you through.
yep,
Period.
yep, yep. And also, I'm gonna add this because I had to deal with some things myself, and it's instrumental that you care for yourself, but you also don't fall victim to other things to drown out what you're dealing with.
Right.
After my parents passed, I was it was probably PTSD. Nobody knew that. I even asked the doctor. I said, "Hey, did I have like a nervous breakdown?" "Oh no, you're fine. Here's some pills."
Wow.
Just be careful when you come out on the other side, that instead of falling victim to whether it's drugs, alcohol, whatever it may be an abusive relationship. You never know.
Mm,
Got to be
mm,
very careful because people gonna come in
mm-hmm.
thinking, "Oh, you're a millionaire now," that you know what I mean, and they will take advantage of you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care.
That's
They will
right.
take advantage of you. So you got to be guarded and very good. Like you said, I think if it were not for God and my faith, I would not be here. Period.
That's
Wow.
right.
Wow.
Same here.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for your knowledge today. Thank you for opening up to us. And this is going to help a lot of people. We will probably re air this show again before the end of the year because this affects so many people. And for those of you who are dealing with family members, because it's not just parents, it could be anything, who are dealing with Alzheimer's, get some help. Get yourself some help. As Susan said, you can contact AARP. They can help you. And also the website that we have listed below, www.alz.org, that can give you a lot of resources. Don't do this by yourself. And even if you
Nope.
do have other
You can't.
family members, use some of those other resources. You may
Mm-hmm.
have, brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles, but use all of the resources that you can get so that you can get the help that you need. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so
So we're
much
going
for
to,
having me.
of
Oh,
course,
thank
we
you,
hope to have you
Susan.
on again.
And
Absolutely. And
sorry about the
happy
lighting. I had
birthday.
to reset.
That's
No,
okay.
it's okay. It's
We saw
okay.
your beautiful face. You're doing good.
That's
You
right.
take care. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Bye, sweetie.
That was great.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
That
It
was great.
it it it
Um,
took me back, and I'm gonna tell you, when you're going through that journey, Kim, you try and do everything right. And, I can kind of take a step back myself and say, okay, these are some of the things I did right. These are some things that I could have done better, but I did not. One thing about me, I try to be perfect, and and the saying goes, perfection is God's business. I'll just strive for excellence. So, but the one thing that I'm very grateful that I had spent the time. It's funny Susan mentioned about sharing, videotaping uh, your loved ones when you have when that time comes. I think I told you for both of my parents, I did a book on them. And now that they're a spirit, I can always refer to a book whenever I feel down. I can look at the book and say, "Hey, I did this for mommy and daddy," you know.
right,
Um,
right.
and I have so many photographs of them when they were, in early in their marriage. So it's just really it's a role that it's unpaid, but it's paid back in love. And I'm
Good.
just really, as I
Good.
said, I am very grateful that I was a fierce advocate for them, because I'm gonna tell you, there will be times if your loved one is in the hospital and the doctors will come at you saying all this medical terminology. You got to tell them stop. You need to break this
Right.
down in
Right.
layman's
Right.
terms
Right.
so
Right.
I can understand and have a better plan of action for my loved one. Because, as Susan said, there will be opportunities where people will try to take advantage, and you have to just stand strong to let you know. Because,
Mm-hmm.
again, you are protecting your loved one so they can get the best
Mm-hmm.
care possible. So, thank you for allowing
Agreed.
her, Susan, to be a part of this. And, we will continue to post different tips on what a new caregiver needs to know, and as a caregiver, a continuous
Right.
caregiver, what you should do to protect and take care of your loved one.
Exactly. Well, thank you for that. November is not only Caregiver Awareness Month, it is also Diabetes Awareness Month. And
Yes,
for our community, it is a very big deal.
big deal.
Black people, non-Hispanic blacks, are twice as likely to die from diabetes. African American adults are 60% more likely than non Hispanic white adults to be diagnosed with diabetes by a physician. And so, and I say this especially to myself as a person I have history of diabetes on both sides. Um, do what you have to do to not get that disease. Um, I'm laughing because I'm preaching to myself. Weight loss, activity, eating correctly, and going to the doctor regularly to get that diagnosis. Or if get the diagnosis of pre-diabetes, which I have, it is done, and I just did what I had to do to make sure that those numbers went down. And so I've really got to get a better handle on. I didn't do very well during COVID with my health. This COVID has been it really took me. It was very hard. It was very hard because I was alone most of the time, and but God gives us a new. His mercies are new every morning, so He's giving us another chance. Probably going to get my booster today and get a handle on this health thing because when I was in Chicago, I ate myself silly.
I
But
as not only your podcasting partner, but I also feel that you're my sister. I warned you before you got here. I said be in moderation, right? But I know how tempting some of the treats can be in our fair city, and like my mom was type 2, and so I have to be cognizant of that as well. And diabetes, unfortunately, runs rampant in our community. We don't talk about
mm-hmm,
it often enough. I've had family members, unfortunately, that it really did to a point where their feet or part of their toes were
mm-hmm,
amputated.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
severity when you don't take care of
yes,
yourself or you get
yes,
blind,
yes,
in
yep,
your eye. So
yep,
it's really important that you have to take care of self. And so just
yes,
like
yes. And that's with everything. We just came off
yes,
of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We talked about
mm-hmm.
colon cancer earlier. We just have to take better care of ourselves. And many of us, and that's me included, kind of let things go during this pandemic and,
Yeah,
became very friendly with DoorDash and Uber Eats.
and
But
right. That's
we
right.
are,
And Grubhub.
750,000, yeah, Grubhub, 750,000 people are no longer here. And
Right.
so we have been spared so far. And we have to thank God for that and take care of ourselves and honor that by taking care of ourselves. And I'm going to do a better
Yes.
job. Had
We're
oatmeal, and hopefully for the rest of the day I'll do better.
we're gonna be each other's accountability partner. How's that, Kim?
Yes, yes, yes,
How's
yes.
that? How's
Um,
that?
there there's a lot that happened this week. Some of it good, some of it bad. As I stated before, here in Oklahoma City, a young man was supposed to be executed. Let me go back a little bit. When I first moved here almost 6 years ago, I heard about this young man. His name was Julius Jones. Supposedly, he had killed. They said he had killed two people, murdered two people over 20 years ago. Um, and I heard a lot about him. People in church would talk about him. My brother was a pastor here. As time went on, we heard more and more about him. And he had a clemency board hearing over a month ago, I believe. And the clemency board, because it was a botched trial, Mr. Jones felt like he didn't have right representation. The clemency board recommended that his sentence be commuted. He was supposed to be executed on Thursday at 4 o'clock. I mean, you all probably didn't see it. People were down at the governor's mansion. They called the governor so much, he turned his phone off. So then people called lieutenant governor.
That.
This was a bipartisan effort. There were people in the conservative movement of CPAC who were advocating for this man to be released. That's how serious this was. These were white, Hispanic, everything. And at 12 o'clock, which as far as I'm concerned, was cruel and unusual punishment, the governor decided to lift the execution and give Julius Jones life without parole. There's two things I want to say about that. First of all, never underestimate the power of people advocating for something. It reminds me of the civil rights movement. So when I talk about on my feed, and I get flack for this, believe it or not, calling your representatives, emailing them, they take those things very seriously. Going down to the offices if you can. And that is why Julius Jones is free. It's not because the governor, he prayed and all that, blah. He's trying to be reelected next year, and he's trying to run for president, which we will make sure both things don't happen in 2024. So I just want people to understand that advocacy does work.
Is important.
Did you have something to say about that, Kay?
No, the main thing we wanted to get candid about, as all of you know, unless you were under a rock somewhere, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, he was 17 when he did it. Now he turned 18. Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty on all 5 counts. And 3 of those counts, or I should say, 2 of those counts were murder. One of them was attempted murder. Now, all of us, especially in the black community, we had a feeling that he might be acquitted. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Kim. I thought of all the charges, the one charge that made stick was the gun charge. Because there's no way in hell no 17-year-old boy of mine is going to be coming around to a different state with an AK-47 just shooting up folks. Because if his name was Kevin House as opposed to Kyle Rittenhouse, and he was of my complexion with an AK-47 on the neighboring state of Kenosha, Wisconsin, shooting up folks and unfortunately killing 2, there was no way he would be acquitted. And we all know what this is about. So let's keep that real. And I'll let you continue, my podcasting sister.
America reaps what it sows. You reap what you sow. I remember when Columbine happened. And that was over 20 some years ago. And we were going to do something about gun laws.
Didn't happen. And
nothing has been done. There have been things done in states, individual states. And as a result of that, as a result of us doing hopes and prayers, crying, and then doing it all over again, we have lost hundreds of children and adults. We will be commemorating the anniversary of Newtown, Connecticut. That date still haunts me to this day. I remember when those 5-year-old babies were killed that day. I remember calling my mom that day because my nephews were still in school, and I was weeping for them. That was one of the worst days of my life. President Obama said it was the worst day of his presidency because the thing about it is it could have been prevented.
That's right.
That's the part that kills me. And then we had the shooting in Florida. We had the shooting
In South
at the
Carolina,
other
and a
school in
church.
Florida.
Let's not forget
Yes,
this out.
there's a
In
church.
church
The church yeah,
in South Carolina.
the in South Carolina, a church down in I think near Fort Hood. I mean, we could go. We could be on this podcast until Jesus comes back. Seriously, you unless America does right by itself, there some other teenager. I hate to tell you this, is going to do the same thing,
That's
and
right.
who's going to get killed then? So I, I don't really know what to say. What's going to wake us up? We have the Arbery case, the murderers of Ahmaud Arbery. I don't think that we'll hear a jury on that. I think the defense rested.
Defense rested.
We'll hear more
Right.
about that. Probably more after Thanksgiving. Just keep our country in prayer. We are very divided right now, and there's
Yes, we are.
a lot going on. I mean, you had a congressman put up a cartoon about killing a young woman, AOC, and when they wanted to censure him, everybody said, "Oh, it's just a joke," and in the cartoon, killing the president of the United States, and his fellow Republicans, except for two, Adam Kinzinger and Cheney, defended it. And, we all know the difference between right and wrong. Come on. Most of us were raised with the same values. So don't play me and say, well, it's just a joke. So I'm done. I'm done. I could talk about it all day.
We
Just
just
pray
have
for our
to
country.
we have to
Go
stay
ahead, Karen.
prayerful and be mindful and be aware of our surroundings. I mean, you think about here in
Yes.
your home city of Chicago. It happened last week. Security guard was killed doing her job, getting money from one bank to the other. Lost her life because these guns. We're still getting shootings here in Chicago on the expressways. Folks still shooting.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
has to be done here.
Yeah.
Not just, state nationwide, here where I live. There's just things that are happening. I think COVID has really kind of opened some ugly among Americans, but there
Yeah.
on that other side though, there is beauty and there's hope and there's faith and there's love. And I'm hoping
Yeah.
that we can, we have to just take things day by day and not get so engrossed with some of the news media because it can damage you if you let it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we have to, even though we talked about November being National Family Caregivers Month. Sometimes, ladies and gents, you have to do self-care of you. Make sure you're looking at the right type of media that's going to inspire you, because you can't continue to look at craziness. It's going to impact you mentally and emotionally.
Well,
So
let me just say that Thursday is Thanksgiving.
yes,
Um, and I just want to say, Kay, we met this year, both virtual. Did we met last year? We
we
met
met
last
last year.
year.
Yes,
Okay. Well, we started our podcast this year, and
we
we
did.
met for the first time, of course, this 2 weeks ago, which was
Yes, we did.
amazing. And I am thankful for you, thankful for what you bring to this podcast and the work that you do. This is not easy to put on. And we, week to week, in between our busy lives, we try to put on a quality show and an informative show. And I think we do that. We may not have the most views, but I feel good about what we do every week because if it's just a little penny in the bottle, we're helping someone, and if we help one person, that's good enough for me. That's good enough for me. Did you have something?
I do. And as again, as we before we end our podcast today, one, I am thankful for life. I am thankful for clarity of thought. I am thankful for you. And it's interesting, we talked about this. I said in January, before you even brought it to me, I said I want to do a podcast. And lo and behold, a month later, you came to me and said, Karen, let's do a podcast. So I'm
Hmm.
thankful for you as well. We are a good team together, and we're only going to get stronger. So thank you. I thank Mr. and Mrs. Coleman for you, your brother, your sister in love, your other brother, your nephews for you. I'm hoping one day I'll get a chance to meet them as I've met you. And as I said early in the broadcast, on November 8th, 2013, my beloved father, Mr. James Mason Jr., joined my mother. And my father was extremely witty. If you met my dad,
Hmm.
Kim, you'd be like, Lord have mercy, I see where Karen gets it from, Mr. Mason. And he had a lot of quotes. And see, this is what, nuggets are who I am. I give nuggets, there's a reason for it, because it came from my mother and my father. But this nugget I wanted to share with you is part today. Um, and it goes like this. If you spend 6 months out of the year minding your own business, and the other 6 months of the year leaving other people's business alone, by the end of the year, you come out even. And that was by my
Wow, I
daddy,
like that.
Mr. James Mason Jr. Mwah, love you, Daddy. So,
I
ladies
love
and
that.
gents, thank you so much for tuning in. We will not be back next Saturday because we're going to be doing our thing for Thanksgiving. We'll be returning on December the 4th for another great candid conversation. Many thanks again to Susan Carlotta Ellis for sharing her story of being a fierce and protective caregiver to her family. May all of you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. But remember, Thanksgiving is not just the fourth Thursday of the November. Thanksgiving is every day that you up in the morning. You can give praise to your higher power that you've awake, that you're alive, that you have shelter, that you have food, that you have people who can say they love you. We love you.
Yes,
Stay
we love you.
safe,
Stay
stay
safe.
prayerful, and we'll see you on
Hmm.
December 4th.
Yes, pray, praise, and push. Bye.
Bye.